To me, one of the most interesting topics when it comes to serial killers is women. Women are often viewed as weak and soft. Although men are more likely to be serial killers, there have been cases throughout history of women who have been classified as serial killers. In fact, it has been proven that women are more successful and precise than men serial killers. An example of a female serial killer is Aileen Wuornos. Aileen had an extremely rough upbringing as her father was in and out of mental hospitals, and her mother gave Aileen and her brother away to their grandparents. She had a child at 14 years old, and her brother was thought to have been the father. According to Biography.com, the baby was given up for adoption after the death of her grandmother. Aileen's grandfather kicked her out, and she began working as a hooker. She was arrested and jailed many times and eventually moved to Florida. According to Bustle.com, over the course of 1 year between 1989 and 1990, Wuornos killed 7 men before being arrested a year later and sentenced to death in 2002. Wuornos is an exception, but it is proven that more than half of women serial killers target friends and family, and the most often method is poisoning. According to CrimeLibrary.com, another example of a female serial killer is Black Widow Belle Gunness. Belle Gunness killed her husband and 2 of her children in the early 1900s after insuring them so she could collect the money. She moved to Indiana with her 2 remaining children and remarried. Gunness killed her second husband and moved on to men met in advertisements she put out claiming to be lonely. She killed those men and her 2 remaining children before disappearing. A case of a serial killer early in history was Countess Elizabeth Bathory. Elizabeth was an extremely cruel woman when it came to women servants. She was thought to have killed about 650 women and female children. This is a strange case because women serial killers don't often target other women. I find this topic most interesting because of how few cases there are of female serial killers. According to Psychology.com, Mike Amote, an impressive serial killer statistician, says there have been 514 women serial killers since 1910. Women account for only 17% of serial killers. They have proven to be just as clever, powerful, and malicious as male serial killers. According to Parcast.com, one of the most famous serial killers is Nanny Doss. Nicknamed the Giggling Nanny from her first appearance, she seemed sweet and friendly. Doss killed 11 people, most husbands or children of her own or of her husband's children, mostly using arsenic, and often insured them to collect the money. After she killed them, she collected the money after she killed them. Doss was abused psychologically as a child and was raped many times by men who were her father's friends. At the age of 7, Doss hit her head on a pole and likely suffered from psychological damage for the rest of her life. This is thought to possibly have changed her personality. Nanny Doss was arrested in 1954, spent 10 years in jail, and then died of leukemia, also thought to have been caused because of the arsenic. According to serial murders and their victims, the most common motive for female serial killers is money, which makes up 72%. 13% of female serial killers kill to have control, 11% kill for enjoyment, 10% for sex, and 24% for drugs, cult involvement, and to cover up feelings of inadequacy. The most common method is poisoning, which makes up 80%. The second being shooting, which makes up 20%. Bludgeoning and suffocation are tied for 16%. Stabbing makes up 11%, and drowning 5%. Women serial killers are not common, and they are an extremely interesting topic because of it. A common misconception is there are no female serial killers, and I used to believe that too. There is a ton of research and documented cases to back up the fact that although there aren't many, female serial killers do exist.